So if you're like any homeowner across the world, you love to enjoy a nice patio space. So you can enjoy the backyard, the scenery, you can relax, you can party, you can do a lot of things. But when it rains, a lot of people have to move the party inside or move your relaxing time inside, which most people don't want to do. So what's happening with this homeowner, he had this whole patio built, but now when it rains, it's going through the deck boards and into the new patio space. So if it's drizzling, you don't want to have to move the party inside. You can still enjoy the patio space with an underdeck drainage system. So today we're going to be using metal roofing. We're going to be pitching it down here into a gutter. The gutter is going to be draining this way into the already installed drainage system. So we're going to put a Y here and we're going to send it right out to the regular drainage system that was already previously installed. So we're going to do a step-by-step process. Stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. All right guys, so the first thing I want to focus on is putting this metal flashing in. So think about it. You see this board here? There's a gap here. The water is going to be flowing down here. You don't want it to be too flat here where it's going to backtrack into the house. The goal is always to get the water away from the house in any part of the building process. So if we put like a sheet of metal here, we start the drip over in this area rather than having it drip down. Then it'll drip off into the metal roofing, back into the gutter. It does not have to look perfect. It's going to be hidden, but installing is going to help keep the frame of this deck much drier than if you didn't put it in. All right, so we're putting in our last piece of flashing now, kind of trying to give it a little bit of a curl. So the metal roofing is going to be sitting about here. Any water that gets down here is going to drip onto this, onto the metal roofing, down into the gutter. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, this is really just for added protection. If one or two drops gets by, which it likely won't, but if it does, the deck's going to be fine. And we're going to start running our strapping with the 2x6 pressure treated wood, and we're going to run it along the edges too, just to give it a nice profile at the end. Now the way I got the slope for the ceiling was by stacking 2x4s on top of each other. I started off with one strip, then I stacked two of them in the middle, and then stacked three at the end, giving me a 3-inch slope, which is plenty for the water to run nicely. Now I should have did this part first, but I'm building the box around the deck, and I just need to cut back on the PVC and the siding to make way for that. All right, so what we're doing here is we went around and added 2x6 just to give us something nice and flat to put our J-channel on. This side, because all these are lower, I gotta bring this down a little bit, because if you don't, you're gonna have your ceiling and then you're gonna see a gap in here. So to make it look nice, I'm gonna put a piece of 2x10 this way, and it's gonna look just the same as, basically you're building like a frame, like a box around the whole thing. Now when you have your pitch, you don't see it, it looks all finished, all nice. So the J-trim was complete. Now we'll go ahead and throw our metal roofing in. So this is corrugated metal roofing. So we put our pieces in, and we have these special screws here. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a washer here with a little bit of rubber, just so any water doesn't get through the screw and drip on your forehead when you're hanging out. So we put them in nice and straight, and then we're gonna add the next piece, overlap it, work our way down. And then we want to make sure before we go crazy that we want to take a measurement, make sure the deck's nice and square. You don't know who built the deck before you, so this one ended up being square, so we're not going to have like 2 inches off on the corner compared to that. So keep in mind, when you're fastening those screws, make sure you're putting them in as straight as possible and they're not under or over tightened, because then the rubber won't work properly. And this is what it's going to be looking like at this point. You see how you can't notice the gutter from that angle? So it is going to hide it. The edges look nice and clean. You can visibly see the slope. And honestly, I just think it looks sharp. I like the white. I think it brightens up the space, and it makes it more feel like an outdoor living room than a patio. As you can see, the only thing we have left at this point is to finish the gutter, put in the Y, connect it to the downspout, and we're out of here. All right, check it out. So I did just put the hose on, ran it up on top of the deck. That's going to be sprinkling through the boards, down the metal roofing, into the gutter, down the gutter, down the Y, into the downspout, now into the woods. So now I'm gonna post a few videos without me talking so you can just see it for yourself. This is definitely a cool project to do. I would recommend you do it yourself. Pretty challenging, but it's not necessarily rocket science either. Good luck. So if you did enjoy this video, if you learned something or you used it to do your own, you gotta subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you on the next episode.